Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We're your host for this evening's conversation. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach.
And I am the Uncle Junior, and I go by the consistency coach.
And as always, it is a pleasure for us to take part in conversation and just enjoy each other's company and presence. So, that being said, I want to speak to my brother first, and we're going to speak to you, beautiful people, in the chat like we do every week. So, that being said, the Uncle Junior, the consistency coach himself. How are you, my friend?
My friend, I'm doing well. Um, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful today for family.
Mm.
Just really am. And I
Oh,
mean when I say family, I mean blood family and not blood family. So um that's how I'm doing. I'm thankful. I'm excited about tonight. And um yeah, yeah.
yeah, man. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
it.
ready.
I love it.
I'm ready.
I appreciate that, man. And likewise, I'm thankful as well. Thankful for family. Thankful for those friends that fall in the category of family and those who fall outside of the category of family. And
Yeah.
thankful, I'm just thankful for it all. Thankful for every experience that life throws at us and how we deal with it. You know, the ebbs and flows of life is essential for the learning process. So I'm thankful for that as well. Thankful to be able to share in conversation with you another week.
Yeah.
And also thankful for the livest chat on social media,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
most knowledgeable chat.
Wow.
I'd say that. So that being said, good to see you and welcome to the show, Crystal Everett, Michelle Ray, Miss Adrian Artist, Miss Adrian Walthour. What up, B? Miss Bernadette Simmons, always good to see you. Nick D in the house, good to see you. The Bryant family, Black Love and Beyond, good to see you guys and welcome. And if this is your first time with us, by all means, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, whether you're on Empowering Perspectives YouTube channel or whether you're on the Uncle Junior YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe. Make sure that you hit the notification bell, hit the drop down and select all. That way, you know every time we go live, and consider sharing it. Like, you don't want to keep this information to yourself. Like, you want to share it with other people. That way they can get this information as well. Good to see you, Lisa Keys, and welcome to the show. So that being said, since you, my friend, are driving, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the ride.
I am driving. And speaking of driving, I started a new job this year, and the book that we're reading as a staff is called The Energy Bus. And I recommend it to anybody. It's not a hard read. It's a pretty, like I said, it's not a hard read. Coach had mentioned a book on the show last month or so, like that. I got the book and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Then Coach just shared with me that he just, um, finished reading the Energy Bus. And I'm being transparent. The last couple of days it's been rainy here, and I've been feeling not down, but I haven't been feeling my energy level hasn't seemed like it was up to what was normally there. It could be because I have some things going on this week that maybe subconsciously in the back that's causing it, or who knows. But I will say that today, the closer as I got to the show today, my energy did started to pick up. And because I was excited to come on here and share with you, to share with the chat, I have some family in from out of town. So I just been excited, man. I just been, enjoying my day, enjoying my journey as it has progressed up to this moment thus far. But again, like you said, it's time to get to it. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, um, when we think about leadership, we often talk about the power of doing everything ourselves. But what I've learned over these many years is that the true statement or the true strength of a leader lies in knowing when to let go. Delegation isn't about relinquishing control, it's about empowering others to grow, step up, and contribute to something bigger than themselves. Today, Coach and I are going to break down the art of delegation and why it's a game changer for maximizing your team's potential. We'll share stories, lessons learned, and strategies that will help you not only lead more effectively, but also maintain balance in your own life. Now, with that being said, Coach, We're gonna jump right into the first question, and the first question of the night is I forgot I was doing it. I ain't have to do it myself. How do you ensure that delegating leads? Actually, pause. You know what? Never mind. Nope. Let's leave. Let's roll with it. How do you ensure that delegating tasks leads to growth and not just efficiency? Because I know a whole bunch of times they're like, "Hey, do this, do this, do this, do this," and it ain't delegating. They just trying to get stuff done. So,
It's funny you just said that because that's where my answer was leading to. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is that we think delegation falls in the category of job description. So my job description say X, Y, Z, and so ideally what you'll have is meetings, and then you will give instructions and priorities of work according to X, Y, Z, and assume that that's delegating. No, delegating should be tasks that leaders give their subordinates in order to help grow and empower them. It should not necessarily just simply be tasks that they already know how to do, but they've shown the potential to have the desire to learn and do more than what they normally do. It's almost like, say, for example, if I have a meeting that I have to go to every week, and one of the subordinates on my team have kind of filled in for me from time to time here and there, not necessarily at the meeting, then I may give them the opportunity to go to the meeting. It may sound like a little scary to them initially because it's outside of their comfort zone, but then it gives them the ability to, show face to other seniors in the organization, to take copious notes. They're going to have to brief me back on the things that took place in that meeting. And so it's a number of things that we're assessing when we delegate certain tasks like this. We're assessing their ability to pay attention. We're assessing their ability to take notes. We're assessing their ability to read the room. Like all of these different things can fall into that. So when we look at delegating tasks, those tasks move subordinates outside of their comfort zone and give them the ability to see that they can do more than what they were just signed up to do as far as their job description.
yeah, very bunch of good points. Um, I'm looking at this when I see this, I look at the C word, communication, right? I think that sometimes communicating things while you're delegating help leads to growth too, because I think sometimes people may not understand that they're being groomed or that they're being developed or they're put in positions that's going to challenge them in order for them to get better. You know, recently in my office, I work at a high school now, and I had a student come in there and they're in ROTC. And the student was sharing with me that they're in some leadership role. And now they were like, oh, now I don't have time to do this. And, people was like, hey, asking me, well, I got to do this. And, can you do this? And then I got my own stuff to do. And I was like, yeah, but what are you learning? And she was like, huh? I'm like, what are you learning? And now she still didn't get it. I said, you're learning time management. I said, you're learning how to lead. You're learning how to give people tasks. You're learning, how to work with different people with different mindsets. You're learning communication skills. I said, and she didn't even recognize that that's what, when you're put in certain leadership positions, even though you may not be ready for them, there you're put in there sometimes to learn different things. So sometimes when we're delegating tasks, sometimes we're delegating, and like you said, we're putting people in position to where they can learn and grow and to become better, and not just hey, get over there, do that because it need to get done. Now I will say this, and if I'm wrong, let me know. There is a time and place where sometimes I'm delegating because it is about efficiency and it's not about trying to get you to grow. What do you think about that? You muted.
My bad.
No, you
Yeah, I
good.
definitely agree with that. I think, especially in those particular scenarios when we're in a time crunch and we got to do things in a very expeditious manner, I may need to assign certain people to do. Sure, it may fall within their job description, but it's for them to do more than what they normally do. Kind of like giving them like kind of like expectations and do outs and things of that nature. But even in that, I still think that's an opportunity to grow because
Yeah.
now what we're doing is we're kind of expediting. So now you see what it's like to work under pressure, things of that nature. So even though it's not necessarily giving them more than what they normally do, it might be giving them more in the space of doing more in a condensed amount of time. So I definitely agree with that. I do want to go back to some of the things that you were talking about previously, because a big key there is the ability to network. Like you mentioned communication, you mentioned time management, right?
Yeah.
Things of that nature. But I also want to add in there networking. I think it's good for you to be able to network with people that don't just sit in the same office that you do, right?
Mhm.
So when you are delegating tasks, it allowed those subordinates to get outside of the office to reach out to people outside of who they normally talk to and network. Also, it allows senior leaders to see those individuals and talk to them and find out exactly what they do, and what they're good at as well, because who knows, there may be a project that comes up later on and say, hey, that guy that you sent the other day, Martin, um, can I use him? Can he like come join us on this particular task? I know you choose who you want to go, but I'm requesting Martin if you can send him. Right. So that's another thing, like being able to connect with other people and network, and your ability to communicate in those spaces will actually kind of get your name and face out there, so forth and so on, which in turn promotes growth, and could lead to efficiency along the line in other situations.
Yeah. Man, I peeped over at this next question, and just to be transparent, I totally get it and I totally understand it. Ravonna, can you go ahead and bring that up? So here's the question. What challenges do you face when trusting others to carry out important responsibilities?
So,
Hold on. I don't hold on. I want to say something before you
okay,
go.
sure.
Um This especially is I've been on both sides of this, right? And this is kind of I want to start with this. I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the side whereas I wanted to move up, and whether it been in the military, whether it been in another job, and I felt or thought that someone was holding me down, maybe because they didn't trust me or to trust my expertise or for whatever reason to get the promotion or to move up that level, right? And I was like, man, I know how come they don't trust me to do this? I think or I feel like I can do it, but they won't allow me to do it. And then I've been on the other side of it to where I was like, man, I don't know if this person ready. I don't know if I can really give it to them. You know what I mean? Because I really don't know if I can trust coach with my PIN number to my credit card. You know what I mean? Because I know I need him to take care of this when I'm, in the jungle and I can't pay this. So I need coach to do it. You know what I mean? Like, can I do it? So again, what challenges do you face when you're trying to trust others to carry out important responsibilities?
Yeah, I want to kind of look at this from two perspectives. First is the job place, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think when we start looking at challenges that leaders face when it comes down to trusting subordinates to carry out important responsibilities, I think the challenge that they face is more of an internal challenge. Let's be completely transparent. That subordinate has a contract with that company just like you do. So
Hmm.
my job as a leader is to develop them. If I am not developing them, then that's a reflection on me. So when it comes down to trusting them to carry out important tasks, if I have a trust issue per se, and I'm doing that in quotations for a reason, if I have a trust issue, should that not be more of a reflection of what I've done to empower this individual to be trustworthy in the job market? Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand that there are, individuals, exceptions to the rule. There are some
Yeah.
people who come to work,
I
do
can't
their
always
job.
pick my team.
Exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
But then by that same token, I still have a responsibility to train them. So if I am not, because everybody is not going to be on the same level. I want to make sure I'm saying that we can't look at everything with a blanket statement. So people are going to be at different echelons of trust in the eyes of the leader. I'm going to have my go-to, like my number two, right? I'm going to have another person who's close to that person, and then you may have like the bottom 30% of the team, and those are the ones that we're trying to develop to be in the same category as them. So I think the trust issue that most leaders encounter reflect their leadership abilities and their inability to develop them to such a degree that they are trustworthy. Every subordinate must have a level of buy into the organization. Once they have buy into that particular organization, then they'll do more. They'll go above and beyond. They want the team to look good, not just them looking good. If subordinates are still focused on them looking good, that is an internal individual metric of their own, some things they still need to overcome. A leader can help with that as well. I think a lot of times when you look at the environment, what you find is a lot of passive leaders, a lot of passive leaders who are fearful to be frank with their subordinates out of fear of whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just the world we live in right now. So, again, looking at that, it is important that leaders recognize that regardless of how I feel, because that's ultimately how trust manifests itself, regardless of how I feel, I still have a responsibility to train them to the point to where I can give them important tasks. That's what the company hired me to do. Changing gears, when you look at a family dynamic, well, I don't really see it as being a whole lot different. I think a lot of times now, and I'm talking about like as a father to his kids, the younger the child is, obviously, I'm not going to give them too important tasks, but I'm going to develop them to such a degree that when they get older, I trust them to do more important things. My teenage sons, I may have given him the key to the car and say, "Hey, son, go outside and watch the car, then take it and gas it up, whatever the case may be, and bring it back and park it in the garage." My 10-year-old, probably not. I'm not going to give them the keys to the car. I'm not going to do those things. So I think it all, even though it takes place in different environments, I think it's the same thing. Even though in the work environment, it's not like a 10-year-old, right? But you got to realize there are different maturity levels, there are different motivational levels as it pertains to employees. And leaders' job is to assess, develop, reassess, and continue to develop constantly. So that's what I'm a part there for now, because I know you got something you want to add to this.
So you saying some of it is some of the challenges that you face is passive leadership?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Passive leadership, internal conflict, absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think like we learned in the military, you can delegate authority, not responsibility. One of the challenges that I faced always was that, you train somebody, but then you send them out there to go do the task and they're not ready. And maybe we think they're ready, but sometimes you don't really know until you're thrown into the fire. And then when they're thrown into the fire, at the end of the day, it comes back around to the leadership, So everything seems like in the military and even with being a leader in general, everything does come down to the leadership. When they're looking at company stuff, yeah, they fire people at the bottom, but a lot of times the CEOs and are some of the big people who end up getting fired, the people who are over some of these big um subcultures inside of the company and stuff like that. So I know for me, one of the big challenges has always been when that person fails and then now I'm held responsible for what somebody else did or didn't do. And to my what's what I'm trying to say? To my I can't think of the word, but in my defense, some things are out of our control, but we still are held accountable for it. If we're given 3 days to get little Johnny, who ain't never shot a weapon before, to become, you know, 38 out of 40, so he can go to a school, you know what I mean? Because he needs some promotion points, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, you didn't get him, but it's like, well, I only been in the company for 2 weeks. Little Johnny been in the army for 6 years. His last leadership failed him, but at the end of the day, now that becomes my problem.
Yeah,
So I never like having to be accountable for other people, even though they fell up under my type of leadership. So
yeah.
in many cases, especially back in the day, I used to take on more than what I should, and I didn't delegate certain things.
And that's the drawback of that, right? For a leader who, and I'm not saying that you were, but for a leader who is fearful of delegating, what they
Mhm.
end up doing is they themselves have more responsibility. But
Yep.
ideally, which what we should do as leaders is we hold on to the things that only we can do, and then we delegate the, and I hate to use this term, the menial tasks to other people and give them the opportunity to do it. If they mess it up, that's okay. That's part of the
Yeah.
learning process. I think somebody said that in the chat. I think it was Thomas. Thomas says everyone makes mistakes. That's how they learn. Absolutely. Failure is part of the learning process. So, in most cases, what we don't necessarily realize is that your ability to fail or not do it to standard is where the most important lessons that you're going to gain come from. And so it requires me to give them something. It requires me to, help them to step outside of their comfort zone. If it's me stepping outside of my comfort zone to delegate to them, it's good for both of us. So now I'm learning as well as the subordinate is actually learning at the same time. I think too many times, and this is kind of like what I've seen, is what we tend to do is this thing we call micromanage. So I'm going to
Mhm.
give you this particular task, right? And therefore, you now are responsible for that task. And I want you to do it every week. But then I'm going to stand over your shoulder. No, don't do that. Don't do this. Or I'm going to tell you how to do it, which that's the wrong way to train. Like, just because I do it a particular type of way, that's my style of doing it. I should tell you what the expected outcomes look like. This is what I need. This is what I expect, and then leave it to you and let you go through to mental agility to try to figure it out. And then you come back and say, hey, you know what? I am struggling with this. Can I, bend your ear real quick? Don't ask me the step by step process to do it. Because if you ask me the step by step process to do it, that's more of a training session to where, in most cases, I may be looking for you to become innovative in that particular task, because your ability to create a process when doing this thing can actually help us with the processes that we actually have. So part of that, and that's part of the growth and development piece, right? Part of that is you actually failing at it and then say, okay, what other resources can I do? Can I go to YouTube and look up how to do this, or whatever the case may be? And then I've exhausted all of my resources. Now, Coach Martin, can I talk to you real quick? Yeah. So I'm kind of stuck. I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to kind of give me something to kind of give me a thought in relation to doing this better, because I'm stuck in this particular arena. What would you suggest? Right. So that to me is where people are interested in growing through their hurdles, as opposed to you going in and fixing it for them. If I fix it for you, then you didn't learn anything. I just did it for you. Right. If I come stand over your shoulder and say, do this, do that. Did you do this? No, go back and do it this way. That's micromanaging. So I'm not giving you the flexibility to learn on your own. And I think a lot of times we stay stuck in between those two dichotomies.
Okay. Okay. Um, I like that. I like where you went there, and it caused me to think a little bit. So we have I have heard so many people say, "Oh, that person is a micromanager," right? But if I give, if I'm the leader, coach is the subordinate in this scenario, right? I need you to do something. I only got time to give you a little bit of information. Then I need to start working on the task, right?
Mhm.
And I only have time to check in periodically or whatever. So how do I make sure that the task is being done properly without you having to go too far before something gets messed up versus micromanaging? Because sometimes all we're doing is just checking in. Because if I'm saying, hey, look, hey, everybody need to get down there and get this motor pool cleaned up today, right? I'm gonna go
Mhm.
back and I'm a periodic. I'm gonna go and check. I'm not micromanaging. I'm not going up in there doing blah blah blah. I may do periodic checks. Hey, bring out your PMCS book. Blah 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 blah. Do on the spot checks, different things like that. But I'm not necessarily micromanaging. I'm learning. I'm teaching. I'm training. All these things at the same time. So where is that line between trying to check up and making sure that what you're responsible for you are aware of and you have a pulse on versus the micromanaging piece? Because I think a lot of people miss it right here. A lot of
Yeah,
people think they're being micromanaged and they're really not.
great question. And we get this, like, I literally deal with this question, this conversation, like at least once a month, when dealing with cyber lieutenants and captains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the computer verse, I'm gonna say it that way. there are like 50 different ways to do one task. And the issue that exists there is that in the Army, you have a step by step process to do everything except these computer tasks, right? There is a step by step process that I can create to do it, but that's my way of doing it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it the exact same way, and we can still get the same end result. And I think what ends up happening is that a lot of times leaders don't necessarily describe the expected outcome to such a degree that the subordinate understand it. So I have in my, I'm sorry, you have in your mind what you want me to do, and I heard you, but we didn't do that verbal confirmation feedback type thing that we normally do as leaders to ensure that I understand exactly what you want me to do. So you put it out, you got a meeting in 5 minutes, then you go out, take off. So I'm doing what I think you want me to do. And therefore I'm going away, I'm getting at it on the keyboard, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, you come in, that's not what I asked you to do. What do you mean? So now at that point we pause, hit the pause button on the tape, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
this is where we start asking people questions.
Yeah.
Where's the failure at? Is the failure found on the doer, or is the failure found from the leader? Because if I'm doing a thing that you told me to do and then you come back and say that's not what I asked you to do, that's a leadership failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't ensure that what you told me to do, I understood it exactly the way you told me to do it. But if that took place, then 9 times out of 10, I got it and I would take care of it. Then when you do your periodic checkups, right, you're just saying, hey, how's everything going? Well, I'm knocking it out, Mr. Martin. I got it going, right? Do you need any help? Nope, I'm good. I'll let you know if I need something, right? So now that's where you are hands off. You're not micromanaging. You're not now. You didn't come back and look over my shoulder. Oh yeah. Looks good. Looks good. You know what I'm saying? Hey, move that over there. Do this right here and put that down here. You're not doing all that. You're requesting me to do it. Then you send. Then I send it to you, and then now when I send it to you, now we can sit and talk about it. And if we talk about it holistically, one of the things you'll ask me is like, well, what were some of the concerns or struggles that you had in doing this? Well, I seen how you did it, but I found I struggled with putting it together exactly the way you wanted it, the way yours normally look, and I know what the expected outcome was. So I just kind of did it like this, and I said, well, I was going to run it by you and see what your thoughts were. And who knows, you're like, yeah, I don't like that. You know what? I actually think this is better. It kind of reduces all of the redundancy of information, and it's more streamlined, it's sleek, and it gets information just to the end user. So I think the difference between the two is number one, clear communication in the beginning, right? Ensuring that subordinates understand exactly what you want as a leader and then allowing them the flexibility to do it. And right there is where we mess up because we'll give instructions and then we'll go back while they're working to ensure the instructions are understood. That's too late. The instructions should have been understood here. That's where you get your comfort at. I am comfortable that you understand the task exactly the way it needs to be done. Now I need to allow you to go through whatever version of success or failure that you're going to encounter in doing so, because that's where your most important learning comes at.
And I think that's really good. And I like how you hit on like family and even with when it comes to relationships, right? You know, there are certain things that certain people may decide to do and may take on certain roles within the relationship. And you may get with somebody and you say, well, hey, you know what, now, you know, washing clothes, right? So you get with somebody and they decide that, well, we decide that one person is going to wash the clothes, right? So I think even when you delegate, if I'm in a relationship and I say, hey, this is how I want my clothes washed, blah, 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 vice versa. Then I think we also have to give some time. But first of all, like you said, you have to have the clear cut conversation and understanding about exactly how you want the clothes washed, and then you have to have a conversation about and understanding that it may take time and there's going to process that's going to go on, while you delegate it until that person, understands it and gets it. So I think that's part of it too, because, sometimes we delegate tasks that take time to learn. They're not just, immediate tasks like, do this spreadsheet, blah, blah, blah. It may be something that's, hey, now you delegated to take over the urinalysis inside of the company. So now we're going to send you to school. You got to learn, you get this, you got to get this card, you got to get this license to be able to do this, whatever the protocols may be, and it may be a little bit longer process. So, but in that process, we have to make sure that we as the leaders are still checking in, but not necessarily micromanaging. Hey, bro, everything good? You need anything? Blah blah blah. All right, we're good to go. Move on. Um, I was looking at these questions. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go down to the next one, since we only got two. So I think let's go with I'll throw it up there. This one. 'Cause I couldn't. This was easier. Thanks. So how does effective delegation contribute to a team's personal and professional development? And the reason why I wanted to go to this one, because I remember you was talking about you have a handful of people up here, then you got the bulk, and then you got the 30% at the bottom. So you got that 30% at the bottom that ain't necessarily always bought in. They don't necessarily want to really follow the rules or whatever like this, but you may not necessarily be in a position to necessarily really get rid of them at the same time. So um, they got to have jobs too. So how does effective delegation contribute to a team's personal and professional development? I don't know if that have anything to do with this, but it's made me think about that when this question came up.
Nope, you're good. You're good. And you don't have to give me just the easy ones. Okay, give me all of them.
Okay.
So I think, and I kind of touched on it a little bit previously. So first and foremost, I believe that personal and professional development are intertwined. Um, if they're not intertwined, then it is an identity crisis that's identified in the person, or should be identified in the person. I cannot grow personally and not grow professionally, or I cannot grow professionally and don't grow personally. One will feed into the other. Now, I should be intentional about both, but one will definitely feed the other. I think the issue here is the effective delegation, because again, like looking at some of the things in the chat, you look at what some people will, how they respond to their subordinates. That's not what I asked you to do, or whatever the case may be. Well, again, I go back to the point. Like if the subordinate did it, 9 times out of 10, that is what you asked them to do, and you failed by not ensuring that they understand the task or asking them to repeat back exactly what you want and the expected outcome. So when you look at it, effective delegation actually contributes to a subordinate's ability to communicate first and foremost, right? Being able to listen effectively, or actively listen, if you will, not just understanding what is being said, but responding to what is being said, asking questions, paraphrasing, giving feedback, whatever that looks like. So it improves communication between leader and team member, or between team members and members. Um, and it makes them more confident in some of the tasks that they're given as well. Once a subordinate does a task that you delegated to them and they're confident in that, it kind of improves their motivation to be an effective part of the team, like an influential part of the team. So now they're looking forward to what more their leader can give to them. They're doing this thing here now, but what you'll find later is that that subordinate say, "Hey, is there anything else I can help you with? Because I see that you have a lot on your plate. Allow me to take some off." So now you have the subordinate who's coming to you and is willing to help you with some of your tasks. So I think when it comes down to effective delegation, I think what you'll find is that it not only helps the subordinate communicate better, it helps the subordinate listen better. It also helps the subordinate to recognize some of the struggles that you're going through, because you're empowering them by inviting them into that process as well. Because you got to kind of open the doors up just a little bit so that they can see some of the things that some of the things that you are being given. So it's a lot that goes into this. And again, if I'm going to develop you from a professional level, it will lead into personal development as well. So I may start asking you, like, "Hey, what are you guys reading? Like, I want you guys to go get this book, The Energy Bus," right? So you start recommending readings to them, and then we can actually get to the point to where we start having team building exercises amongst ourselves. So now you feel more like a team, feel more like the team. You're empowered as team members, and because you're buying is now not because you're buying in to the key team concept, everybody is going to want to participate. Here's the other side of it. If you're not being, delegated anything from your leader, that might be evidence that you have not shown yourself to be trustworthy as a team member. So this goes like, I mean, from one extreme to the other. We can talk about all different things under this umbrella here.
I don't know if I heard you correctly, but did you switch out the word delegation one time for empowerment? Did you say effective empowerment? Mm. All right, so that bring me to a story. I remember I was coaching a long time ago, and there were these little the little kids. They 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right? And there was this little kid. He was kind of, you can tell he was a little artistic or a little slow or something. He was a little chubby kid, right? So, but the coach empowered him. He had one job on defense. He wasn't good or anything like that. But when you at that age, you have to get a certain amount of plays in. So they put good dudes around him. They said his only job was they empowered him to go to that one hole, even if he fell down in the hole, it didn't matter because if he on defense, if he fall down in the hole, the running back got to go around him. So, but he was so excited when he used to go and get in the game, like he was empowered, to go into the game. And coach had delegated or empowered him to do something simple, is just to from a 3 or 4 point stance to fall down in the gap, and that was it. But he was so excited about that. The team used to get so excited about it. The crowd used to get excited when he used to go into the game. So that helps. That helped the overall team. Even if the team was losing, it was still, it wasn't. It was still good when the kids still came into the game and stuff like that. And like I said, he was empowered. He felt like that. That he was part of the team. You know, like I said, everybody just got so excited about it. So I can definitely, I like when you change them words around to from delegating to empowering, because when you're doing it effectively, in a sense, that's what you are. You are empowering them to grow, and they're going to benefit so much from being empowered or to have something delegated down to them. Whereas a lot of people look at delegation in a bad way when they get delegated to do something. But if you got a halfway good leader, you probably there's probably a lesson to be learned in whatever's been delegated down to you. But can you open up your eyes, or do you have the vision to be able to see it?
Well, see, if and that's kind of like the thing. Again, let's remove the exceptions to the rule. Are
Hmm.
there some people in a work environment that are just, and pardon my French, I don't mean anything when I say this, but it's just an old phrase. They're just negative by nature. A lot of people tend to call them negative Nancy, right? Or negative Ned. Not trying to make it sound sexist or anything like that. Are there some people in a work environment that is just negative? Absolutely. But that is a hiring deficiency. You have to understand that during the hiring process, you're responsible for creating the team. The leader is
Mm.
responsible for building the team. Too many times we hire based upon skill set, right? But we don't necessarily understand character. So
Blame the
you
recruiters for all my soldiers.
it's all, yeah, absolutely. So you have all the right skill sets for the job, but do
Yeah.
you have the right personality for the team?
Mm.
And too many times, hiring managers don't get into that level of scrutiny when it comes down to interviewing processes and things of that nature. That's one dynamic. Moving over to the leader now, the leader is responsible for building a team. You can do team building exercises all you want to, but if you're not delegating effectively or empowering them effectively, then team building exercises is a waste of time.
Mm.
If you're empowering them, but you're not doing team building exercises, you're going to see growth in the team, but you're not going to see the maximum level of growth that they should receive if they're not necessarily buying into the company's vision, things of that nature. Mind you, this is no different than a family. I'm just talking about it from a workplace perspective because everybody can understand that. But it's the
Mhm.
exact same thing in the family dynamics. As a husband and a wife, if you're not empowering your children to do certain things around the house, helping them feel like they're growing up, not just getting older and getting taller and getting bigger, but actually growing up, and you're starting to see them as young adults who can make decisions. So now you're holding them responsible for their decisions. You're literally developing entitled children. It's the same thing in the workplace. So when you start teaching as a leader, the subordinates, the company, the company vision, the core values, things of that nature, we're doing team building exercises, and I am including you in the development of the things that we're doing as a team. now they feel like they're a part of the team because they feel that not only that, coming to work is a thing, but they feel valued in the workplace.
Ooh, question. First of all, thank you, Michelle Ray, for your questions. How do you handle a leader that believes they know everything and doesn't leave room for team growth?
Well, I have two ways to respond to this. My first way is the most direct way with a pink slip. Sorry, I hate to say it that way. A leader's job is to develop their subordinate, not just to get tasks done. That's a manager, right? A manager gets tasks done. They make sure that people do their things. Leaders' responsibility. This is what I tell the captains and lieutenants at the cyber school. A leader's responsibility is to develop leaders. So if you're not developing leaders, then what are you really doing? You're just managing. You're managing that they do the things that you need them to do. There is, and I'm assuming at this point, because I'm only going by the question. But if I know everything, and it's not so much as, if I'm saying this wrong, Michelle, please correct me or help me to understand better. If I know everything, then how much of what you know do I understand? Because from what I'm hearing here, it doesn't sound as though the leader is empowering subordinates. So there's some things that still need to be understood about this. As subordinates, it's very difficult to handle a leader. You understand what I'm saying? Now we're talking um, more of a thing. Can I say that from a job performance perspective? And I answered that way first. From a job performance perspective, can I say the leader acting like they know everything is quote unquote wrong? No, it's not. From a leader development perspective, it is grossly wrong. However, what they should know is their people. What they should do is empower their people. It is very difficult to effectively answer this question for subordinates and leaders because I would have to understand what they're doing wrong. If they just, like, if you say something like, yeah, I know that, which is not a great communication effort, right? That's not 100% wrong, right? It doesn't make you feel good as a subordinate to feel like you're adding to. So, like I said, this leaves a lot for assumption, and I'm fearful to assume one way or the other. But I think for me, if I am a, say for example, C-suite employee, and I have a functional manager who is not leading, they're just managing, I'm looking for a replacement because I need a leader. I need leaders in places who are developing leaders so that we can promote within. That's what leaders do. Like leaders actually make sure that their subordinates are growing. So I'm not 100% sure that this is in that. I got doesn't leave room for the team's growth. I guess I probably need to understand more what that means.
Yeah, I think the same way. I think, you kind of handled it from a top perspective, handling, you have a leader, a subordinate leader under you, right? So I'll approach it from the bottom end if I'm the subordinate and I'm like, well, and you're my leader. So, okay, the leader, I'm speaking from a perspective that the leader has it my way or no way. But yeah, even with this, I still don't know if I'm the subordinate or if I'm the leader. So if I'm the subordinate, even back to the other question, then at some point I just have to stay in my lane. If I have a leader and they're not leaving room for error, where if I'm the subordinate, I really don't have too much to say anyway. Maybe I can pull him aside to have a conversation with him, tell him that he need to be a little open minded, and maybe some of us on the team as subordinates we have something to say. However, comma, at the end of the day, if he's the leader, then my hands are pretty much tied. So maybe then get my pink slip and give it to myself, and then I go find somewhere else. So,
Yeah, right.
um,
And that's kind of like what I was thinking. Like I don't mean to be drastic in this. I have to
yeah,
understand whether the leader is open, like open to communicating. But if it's my way or the highway, that tells me that they're not. But
yeah,
in a
probably
perfect
not.
scenario, if they're open to communicating and you can go to them and speak honestly and tell them, like I told a story about myself when I was in the army. I had soldiers came to me and said, Sergeant Dwyer, can I talk to you openly? Like just be honest. I'm like, yeah. And they say, you're like, make no mistake about it, you get results. but it's like you're terrible when it comes down to positive affirmation. I was like, me? You
You
know what
get
I'm saying?
results. Who cares?
Yeah, I was like, me? Terrible? And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I don't. And I actually apologized to them on the spot. And I'm not making this up. I apologized to them on the spot and said, you know what? And I got it. And I was like, Major Payne with the sword, you know, I will, do better. Like I'm at first it was foreign to me, but I got better at it over time. That was a blind spot I had. I did not realize that I do it. Um, and so in this scenario, if that leader is open to feedback, which most good leaders are, if they're open to feedback, then you can share that information with them. If they're not, though, I mean, like the consistency coach said, my hands are pretty much tied. Maybe I need to find another place to work. I'm just and like I said, I hate to be so drastic, but at the end of the day, if it does not work for me, and it's disturbing my inner peace, at some point I got to draw the line.
Mm, I get it, man. You said something in there called, you said the word blind spots. They just sent me somewhere totally like on another whole show, because it's like sometimes we don't recognize we have blind spots until someone points them out.
But that's why
And
they're
that's
blind spots. We can't see.
exactly. But sometimes we ain't open to listening to what somebody got to say because we think we got everything figured out.
Yeah,
Man, that's another show. Let's get to the next one. We do one more, and then we'll get to the true false, and then we'll hit the scenarios.
yeah.
Everybody who tuned in, if you haven't already, if you wasn't here at the beginning of the show, hit the bell, hit the like button, share it with somebody, all those different things. Next question. Here we go. What? Yeah, there we go. So, what personal experiences have shaped your approach to delegation in leadership?
I so I kind of gave one just now. Um, But I think for me, because that manager I was talking about originally, that was me. I was a very good manager. But then by that same token, I had a leader, and we had him on the show. And oh yeah, I'm sorry, Michelle. I hope we answered your question. If we didn't, kind of reformulate it and send it back up. My apologies. But I had a young man on the show by the name of Tony Majors. Tony Majors to me was that guy during my military years that helped me to understand that there's a difference between a manager and a leader. I was very good at getting results, um, and I could get results for the person whenever I focused on that. But one of the things that because I didn't like him much at first, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I told him that straight up. But I found out that he was a little hard on me in the beginning because he seen a lot of me he seen a lot of him in me. And so once he kind of broke through and got my attention, we went to lunch. And one of the things he shared with me is that you're really good at getting results. He said, but once you become good at developing people, leadership for you will be like second nature. And he said, I'm seeing you. It's like it's just like that. He said, but once you get to the point that you start developing and empowering people, now that's different. Now you're going to see some things that not only happen in the environment, but in people's lives. And he was absolutely right. So I think just that heart to heart conversation with Tony Majors. And if you're listening out there, brother, I appreciate you. Just that heart to heart conversation with him was a conversation that kind of changed my perspective when it comes down to leadership. And from that point on, I still got results, but I started getting results in people. But more importantly, I started getting results through people. So the result happened in them before it happened through them. And when I started trying to make that my focus, like I wanted to empower them, I wanted them to feel like they had a voice. I wanted them to feel like they're growing, like they're learning, that they're making a difference. Once I started doing that, then I see it was like a wind up toy. Once you wind it up, just let it go. And that's really what it was. So it was times I would go to the motor pool and I had one of them come to me and say, hey, hold up, Sergeant D, where you going? I'm going to check the line. And he did me just like I did Tony Majors. He said, well, if you're here, we don't need to be here. Fair enough. I got it. I see what you're doing. Fair enough. And I appreciate that. So when you empower a subordinate will come to you looking for things, right? If you empower them effectively. And I greatly appreciate him doing that because when I walked away, he literally had it. When I came back down with the first sergeant, there was no issues on our line whatsoever. And I went to him, give him a fist bump because I wanted him to recognize that I seen what he did. And then he and I had a heart to heart later on. And I told him how much I appreciated him doing that. So, not to be long winded, but I think when we do it right, people feel empowered. They feel like not only did you give them a task, but you didn't babysit them with the task and you gave them the opportunity to fail. And what I found is that people appreciate the fact that you give them the opportunity to find their own way instead of you prescribing the way for them to go.
Man, one of my hardest jobs in the Army was platoon sergeant, but it was fun. It was rewarding. And that's when I think I learned the most about leadership. When I had those, staff sergeants up under me, those E6s, and then they had their guys. And, you know, my personal experience that shaped my approach to delegation and leadership was that, you know, being in charge of all of those guys, I don't know, 30, 40 dudes or whatever like that. Um, and just like seeing their growth, like you mentioned, they want to be empowered. When you empower them, they look for you. They look for growth. They want to be better. When you have a good team of people and you're trying to teach them and trying to groom them and stuff like that. Cause that was the first time I really, really, really got my own, you know what I mean? At that level, it's different. You got an E5, you got a couple, you got a platoon and you got staff sergeants. Different when the E7 walked through than when the staff sergeant walked through. Totally different, so the respect level just from that second rocker just is just it's different. It's crazy, so I learned a lot. I learned that just like you said, that when you empower, people want more. They want to be built up. They want to get better at what they do. So that's just that right there has just helped me. I wanted to delegate more. Like I wanted to give them more. Like I wanted to teach and train and I wanted them to do better. Like I was like, man, I hope y'all pass me. I hope y'all get E8, E9. Like I wanted that for them. I wanted them to do better than me because I felt like I thought that, with me just being in their life only for a season, if I could do something to help them, because I've always thought that, I'm here to talk to anybody who will listen. Even I've heard people say, I'll talk to a signpost and you know, I don't mind talking, especially if it can if word comes on my mouth can be used to help somebody. So um I think we've had enough of this question, man. We ain't got that much longer left. So let's jump onto these um true false questions real quick, man. And then
False.
false already. There we go.
I'm
Everything
practicing. I'm
false.
practicing.
There
I'm
we go.
practicing.
All right. Delegating tasks can create a more productive work environment.
All right, waiting on the chats. Let me see what y'all got.
And you already know what they're gonna trick.
Let me see what y'all got. Waiting on the chats.
Let's see.
As you guys are typing your answer in, like as you guys know, three for me and go. If I see three, I'm going. As you're typing your response to this question, this true false question, make sure that you get your free download, which is all about again the art of delegation. I see two so far. Oh, I see three. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So the
there
answer
goes
is
three.
true. Yep, the answer is true.
It's true. All day long and then twice on Sunday. Nice. Number two, delegation is only about offloading tasks to others.
Hmm, that's a very good question there.
True. Sometimes, bro, just bro. Sometimes, look, like you said, we in a time crunch. I need stuff to get done.
There you go. The answer is false. It is
That's his
not
fault.
only about offloading
Yeah.
tasks.
However, come, sometimes that's what we do. Sometimes you
Yeah.
got. Sometimes you have to. All right. Next. Leaders should avoid delegating tasks they enjoy doing. Ooh. Oh, that word in there, the should word.
I like this question, by the way.
Oh yeah, expound on it then.
I
If you got
shall.
30 seconds.
I shall. I'm waiting on some. Okay, I see false. I don't know. I think Michelle Ray says true. Oh
Yeah.
no, it was that's the previous one.
Okay.
Okay, I see two false and a true. The answer is definitely false.
Hmm.
Here's why I like that question, because if I like doing a task, I want to do it. But here's the sad part about it. That might be the very reason why you need to delegate it. I can't I can't it's very hard to explain. Just because you like doing a thing doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Hmm.
Again, the things that you need to identify the things that only you can do, and it may only be 30% of your workload if I'm being completely transparent, maybe even less than that. But it might be something that falls within the 50 and 60 percentile that you really like doing, so you try to hold on to that one. No, get rid of it, delegate it, because again, it is a time, it takes away from your time as well. So again, make sure that you're not just holding stuff because that's what you want to do.
All right. One more. We got time for one more. True, false. Delegation helps build trust between team members and their leader.
Yeah, I think we answered that one directly during the show, so that one should be fairly easy for everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Gonna knock it out.
well, aren't you efficient? Question four, response T. I love it though. I love it. I
I do
love it.
too.
Yeah, I love it. The
Yeah.
answer is true. Delegation helps build trust between team members and their leader.
All right. Here we go. Next, we're gonna move into these. What are these things called? There we go. Scenarios. Is that big enough? Can you see?
Sure.
Up a little bit. All right. There we go. First scenario of the night. You are planning, coach, a romantic getaway, but your partner is overwhelmed with work and personal stress. You delegate organizing some trips to a trusted friend, but your partner feels left out. How do you manage this situation to maintain trust while ensuring the trip is still enjoyable?
Oh, there's so much wrong with this.
Yeah, the fact that they reached out to somebody else.
Right. Like
We
why
ain't
if
going on a trip.
right. Is this like a couple's date or something like that? I'm confused.
Exactly.
Okay, so man, what's the question again? How do you
Right, I
manage
get it.
this
Like, so
situation?
okay, so you trying to plan a romantic getaway, right? But your wifey, I'm trying to plan some wifey's stressed out. She tired of picking up my drawers and picking up all my hair shavings off the sink, right? So I'm just like, all right, I need to book us a trip. Or I need to book us a trip somewhere, right? But I ain't got time to do it either. So I say, Coach, man, I need some help, man. So me and Coach work together. We start planning this trip to Europe. And now Deshelle, like, well, I wanted to do this. She feel like she left out, right? So now what am I supposed to do now? Because I'm trying to help Shell, trying to plan the trip, trying to get the stress off of her. Reached out to my homeboy, reached out to my wolf pack. He helping me. And now she feel like she left out. What I'm supposed to do?
Well, to her point, she is left out. I'm sorry. I'm just
She
gonna call a
is.
spade a spade. She is left out.
Yeah, she is
Um,
being left out.
I,
Yep.
I would say the first thing is that he needs to talk to her, right? Find out what she wants to do. Invite her into the conversation. Have the conversation with her, and then together the both. And understand you're overwhelmed at work. I want to make sure I'm saying it. Overwhelmed at work. Where if
Yeah.
you're
At work.
overwhelmed at work, you're not overwhelmed at home. You got to separate the two, right?
Oh,
Let's not
see
let's
what you
not conflate.
did. See
Let's
what
not
you did.
right. Don't let's not conflate the two. If you're overwhelmed at work, leave it at work and come home. Let's talk about it. So you can get to the point of expressing what's going on at work and then come into some resolution at work. But don't bring overwhelm home for starters. That's for starters. Secondly, we can plan this trip together as long as you recognize that you're overwhelmed at work and not at home.
Mhm.
And so now we can sit down and determine who's going to do what. Am I going to handle all of the planning? If I'm going to handle all the planning, then what do you want to do? How does that look like? So forth and so on. If you want to handle like say for example the excursions, and I
Mhm.
just handle the getting us to A and B and hotel stay, that's fine too. Like we need to come to the point where we come to some resolution on how we're going to handle planning this trip. But I would definitely say do not bring a third party into your planning for your for you and your significant other.
I would agree too. I felt the same way. I was like, "Ooh, this gonna be a good one." All right, next. Here's the next one. Um, this time you leading a community event. Decide to delegate key tasks to a few team members. One of them drops the ball at the last minute, putting the event in jeopardy. How do you address this issue without damaging the team's morale?
Oh wow, this actually does sound like something that actually happened. Um,
This happens all the
be,
time.
be open, be transparent. You don't necessarily have to speak directly to the situation. If you're going to speak directly to the situation, don't do it in a team setting. Do it with that individual directly. Find out exactly what happened, what issues they had going on. Maybe the failure was on me. Maybe I didn't put out the right information or enough information. But if I'm addressing that situation, talk directly to that person. If I if I'm going to have a community event, um, or did the entire community event fail, or was it just a thing in the community event?
Yeah.
Uh, that's one of the things I need to understand. Because if the entire community event failed, then chances are, first and foremost, I need to apologize to the entire community for the entire event failing. If
Mhm.
the entire event didn't fail and one, let's just say one venue in the event failed, then I apologize at the event for that one venue falling through. Not necessarily calling the individual name or whatever the case may be, but it's my event. I own it. So I own the fact that this particular venue fell through. However, this is what we got on the backside. So I think the key here is just being open, being transparent, addressing things in the appropriate fashion with the appropriate people.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I would also have to look at what was the reason why the ball was dropped. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe
Right.
it was something out of control. Like you said, maybe it was something that the leader did.
Hmm.
Maybe it was a piece of information he didn't give to that person. And he didn't recognize it. So definitely needs a little bit more information, but I definitely understand and see that maybe with that person, you maybe do that behind closed doors, being transparent about it. Hey, bro, what happened? What was the reason why the ball was dropped? Yada, yada, yada. Be transparent about it. Like you said, if it affected the whole event, be transparent about it. Ain't no harm, no foul. You move on.
Absolutely.
Next one. Last one. Ooh, too much. You've taken a lot of personal projects, but you realize you need help to complete them. You delegate some of the tasks to family members, but their approach isn't up to your standards. How do you guide them without taking over? Um, here's the only thing I can relate to, and this is just because we just had a family reunion. The only thing I can think of that can relate to this right now, and as far as the family and having personal projects, is maybe a family reunion. So that's kind of sort of how I'm going to answer it.
Yeah.
Once you get done.
Yeah. I'm still because personal projects
Yeah,
and
they mine.
delegating, right? Right. So
Yeah.
personal projects and delegating. Maybe what I
Hmm.
need to understand is that I'm doing too much. Like they have no responsibility to my personal projects, if you will. I got it, family members, whatever, you can ask for help or whatever the case may be. But at some point, I need to understand that maybe I bit off more than I can chew. Me finding the solution to the problem that I created after I created the problem by depending on somebody else to do it does not help me to grow from biting off more than I can chew in the future. So I will start there. Maybe I need to accept the fact that maybe I bit off more than I can chew. Now let's transition to and I'm gonna steal your thunder just for a second. I still want your response though. Um, to a scenario like you just offered, a family reunion, which I think is fantastic. Well, in the beginning, let's decide who's going to do what for the family
Yeah.
reunion. In the beginning, I don't want to get started and then realize that this is taking too much for me in my life and all this other great stuff, and then raise the red flag, say, "Hey, I need some help." At that point in time, it might be too late. So in the beginning, when we're deciding something like a family reunion or a family trip, more than the people in my house, let's just say it's like 5 different houses, family, right? And so we're deciding a group family trip. Well, we need to assign priorities of work before we get into the planning phase of this thing. So again, that's kind of like what I would say. How do I guide them? I don't. I'm just being transparent. Like once they accept their priority of work, then let them go through the mental agility that they need to learn how to plan their portion of the event. Once we come back to the table and start laying the plan together, if anybody's plan we can see holes in it, then we need to all talk to it jointly so that we can try to fill those holes and try to do better moving forward.
Yeah. Um, I get all of that. I definitely understand and definitely can relate. And then you got to think about the task that you're delegating to the family member. Can they even do the task? You always hear so and so talk about, yeah, they got money and they're always spending and they're always going on trips and vacations. So you say, oh yeah, they're doing good with their money. So you put them in charge of the money. And you only to come and find out they really ain't good with money, but they living paycheck to paycheck and living outside of their means. You know what I'm saying? So I think that when you're delegating tasks, you need to make sure that the people you're delegating these tasks to, even though they're your family members, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they're not up to your standard, or maybe they don't have a standard at all. Maybe they're just not good at whatever task was delegated down to them. And as you was talking, I also thought about being like on a farm, right? So you live on a farm with your family, say it's a husband, wife, you got 2 or 3 kids or something like that. And so you're tasking your kids to do stuff. Hey, go out there and I don't know, slop the pigs and clean up after the chickens or something, right? So but if you haven't really taught them how to do those jobs, then you have to understand that there's a learning process and that they may not necessarily have it right now. And it's something you're gonna have to continue to work with them because it may not be a task that you delegate to where they're going to learn it overnight. It may take some time to actually learn the task. So um,
Yeah, if cousin Tyrone borrow money from you every month, you may not want to put them over the finances. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Not at all. Man, what we got left? Actionable advice? Is that it?
It sounds like that's about it.
All right. Alley you.
Okay. Um, Great conversation. First of all, I love this topic. The art of delegation, empowering your team, is really what we're talking about here. I think sometimes leaders struggle with delegation because they have a fear of asking subordinates to do things, or they struggle with people pleasing, or whatever that looks like. Like it's some inherent level of fear, or again, they just feel like they might be the person that if you want the job done right, you got to do it yourself. So that said, leaders must develop your teams so that you can empower them to such a degree that they add value to the team. So if that's you, again, make sure that you get the free download in the chats. But if that is you, pick a task that you can delegate, one that you know for a fact is outside of that person's general job description, and just delegate it to them, and then take your hands off and watch the magic happen. I think people will surprise you when it comes down to their abilities to do things. And I mean, let's just be completely honest. I think within every person there's this thing called figure it out. Even if we're talking within the home, empower your children, give them tasks to do, give them some things to make them responsible for that thing, and help them to understand that thing that they're doing is actually for the family. So again, that's the thing, that's the key. Find something to delegate to sit back and watch the magic happen.
I like that. Here's my actionable advice for the week. We started the show talking about books. Coach just said something about downloading. So my actionable advice is going to be this. I wanted to start off with buying a book or reading a book or acquiring a book on delegation, but I'm going to make it a lot simpler. What I want you to do is do something for yourself and then delegate a book or something else to someone else, So what I mean by that is this. I challenge you to go out and find some piece of information on delegation, whether it's a book, a magazine article, a um, um, YouTube conversation, something like that. Get two of them and one for you, and then share one with somebody else, whether that's a peer, whether it's a subordinate, a leader, or someone like that. So this time, between this time and next week, your challenge or your actionable advice is to gather some information on delegation and share that same piece of information that you have learned with someone else. That's my actionable advice. And man, what's the housekeeping stuff? What housekeeping stuff we got? Next week, Coach's Corner, 7 p.m. This Friday, 8 p.m. Another episode of the Hearts of Men podcast. This
This
gonna be a good one
episode,
too, right?
yeah, this is a joint podcast. This is the combination of the Hearts of Men and the Hearts of Women. And then Saturday morning is the premiere of the first episode for the Hearts of Women. Saturday morning at 10:30. So yeah, it's a fun filled week. Fun filled week.
It's
Um,
gonna be live.
Absolutely. And y'all look in the show notes and look in the show notes and go ahead and get your swag. I already got my Hearts of Women swag I'm gonna be wearing
Also, women's swag. I don't need what's the topic?
for Friday. It's all about the social media and
Ooh.
self worth.
Mm. We talking about self-worth, and we got men and women on the platform. This should be real interesting. There we go.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Everett said it. Join us Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube at Empowering Perspective as Hearts of Men and the Hearts of Women come together for balance in social media and self-worth. Tips for healthy connection. This is going to be real interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Anything else?
I get the referee. I get to be the man. I get to have on a striped shirt and be the man in the middle.
On Friday night?
Yeah, man.
So who leading it? If you referring, you just referring all together.
Yeah, that's me. I'm leading it.
Oh, I got it. I'm gonna bring me one too. No, I'll be there. I'm be eat my popcorn.
There you go.
Yeah,
Love it.
I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the conversation, man. Enjoyed tonight, man. Enjoyed the chat. Enjoyed being here. And I think that's it, right, Coach?
Yeah, one more thing. Listen, if you have not joined totalmindsetshift.com yet, join totalmindsetshift.com where you'll get all this information that Crystal is lining the chats up with. So go to totalmindsetshift.com and then just become a member of the community page. That way you'll get all of this information that we share and so much more.
And with that being said, folks, see y'all next Tuesday. We out.